Hey, this is Brent Jensen. You're listening to No Sleep Till Sudbury, the show where we talk about the music that makes your skin vibrate. The show is brought to you by Pariah Pickups, handcrafting the very best guitar pickups all the way down in Detroit, Rock City. Check them out at pariahpickups.com. To support the No Sleep Till Sudbury show on Patreon, visit patreon.com/BrentJensenMusic. Folks, today I'm joined by famous underground Moxie Classic Albums live vocalist and former vocalist of the Juno Award-winning rock band Slik Toxik, Mr. Nick Walsh. After first having been a Slik Toxik fan and then meeting Nick years later, I've always wanted to host him on the show. And today is the day. Here he is, Nick Walsh. Nick Walsh, it has been a long time, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I saw the nice words that were mentioned to me on another podcast. And they were saying that you should get me on your show, and you reached out days after, if not hours.
Yeah, I was saying in the intro that I've been wanting to have you for a long time, and it just never worked out.
Right.
You know, being a Slik Toxik fan back in the day. And
right.
then, you and I had met. You'd read my first book, and
Yep.
I told that story actually on the podcast. I think of the really cool thing that you did. I said, "Can I have a picture of you with the book that I can use for media purposes?"
That's
And
right.
he said, "Sure." And I said, "Where do you want me to drop the case of beer off?" And you said, "Listen, you don't have to do that. Buy me a beer when we're at the bar the next time you see me." And I thought that was really cool.
And we haven't met at a bar since. You still owe me a beer.
There's one back here.
Exactly. There you go.
Standing invite. So listen, you are a very, very busy guy. Thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where do you want to start? You've got so much going on right now. Do you want to start with?
Yeah, it's crazy because first and foremost, I do have so much going on right now, but it almost seems as though I don't, because this is my regular, everybody always says, "Oh, you're so hardworking. You're so this and that." It's just what I do. And it's what I've always done. Some people say, "I have a hard time keeping up with your energy." I go, "Energy? I'm tired." What are you talking about? So yeah, I got a lot going on. The latest news to become public was that Craig Martin, founder and CEO of Classic Albums Live, asked me, and I graciously accepted to become the general manager of Classic Albums Live, which
Awesome.
is a company they're celebrating the 19th year this year, this past April. So, to do what I've done throughout my career and to be asked at my age now to be in a corporate role, it's quite funny because I even say to my mom, "Oh, Mom, I'm a suit now." And my mom goes, "Oh, are you going to be wearing a suit?" I said, No. It means that I'm on the other side of the fence now, but it's not like that. At Classic Albums Live, first and foremost, Craig, he also is a musician and an artist. So this whole organization is based off of creativity and coming from those roots. So that's why everybody thinks that I would be perfect for the job, because I've been dealing with this stuff my whole life, from a band leader perspective to road managing to managing, producing, media. So every facet of the business I've had to be involved with just out of bare necessity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great honor to take this on. I've actually been singing. I've actually been a performer with Classic Albums Live. This July, I'll be celebrating my 8th year.
Oh, wow. That many.
Yeah. So time flies. And, within the 8 years, I've luckily been able to be involved with many different projects. So that's what keeps me busy other than my family life. And, I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way, Brent.
No, I know. And the latest one is Led Zeppelin 2 that you're involved with, and that run just wrapped up, I think, in the U.S. And you have...
Yes, I have one more date here in Toronto, Canada. We're doing Roy Thompson Hall on June the 3rd.
Yes, yeah, it's a Friday night,
and that'll wrap. I've been touring that with the Led Zeppelin crew extensively since mid-January. Since things started opening up again, it's just been nonstop. I've literally I was home 5 days in April. And the last time my wife said, like, it's nice of you to come home to do your laundry kind of thing, you know? So I'm glad to be stationary now for a few weeks to get some rest.
Good for you. You started that you're in the Maritimes, right? And then you went down to the US.
That was one we actually, we were in Ohio, then California. Like, we bounce all over the place because some shows are driving shows because they're further north in the US. And then other shows are fly shows. So I personally, since I guess March or February even, but since the end of March, right up until this past weekend, was in 4 different time zones in 5 weeks. It's very fatiguing on your body, especially when you're not 23 anymore.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
But we were in California with it. We did a run out in Alberta with it. We were in the Maritimes. So it was like California. Then, like, come home for a day, try to get acclimated to Eastern time. Then all of a sudden, we're in the Maritimes in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm out there for, a little over a week.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fly to Alberta,
Wow. Yeah.
Now, bathroom breaks, sleeping breaks, eat it. You don't even know is it dinner or is it breakfast right now? I don't know.
No kidding. Yeah. Now, what are some of the things that you do to keep your voice up when you're on the road in that capacity?
Well, what I do personally, again, it's not like I'm in my 20s and I'm a noob out on the road. I warm up. I specifically, when I'm going out west and it was winter a few weeks ago, if you recall.
Oh, yes.
I bring a humidifier for my room, cool mist humidifier for my bedroom or hotel room rather. I have a facial steamer that I keep backstage that I help moisten my cords. A lot of people don't realize that. Okay, first and foremost, singing is one thing as far as, hey, I can sing, but you have to have an ear to be able to sing. So that's the first thing. You have to hear pitch and tone and all this stuff to be able to sing. Secondly, if you're already a singer, the best advice I can give you is rest and hydration are the key. So the days of, going out to a bar after a gig and whooping it up till 3 o'clock in the morning, yelling and screaming over another live band in a club, that's gone. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You have to learn that shit the hard way. And I learned it the hard way back in the Slik Toxik days,
Oh, really?
We were out with Yngwie Malmsteen for 2 months in the US and we were playing 6 nights a week. And, the first few shows, it was kind of like, I was like, what am I going to do? I have no voice, right?
Oh, no.
Calling my vocal coach back home here in Toronto, and she's, telling me what to go buy at the drugstore to help get out of it. And really, at the end of the day, after that tour, I quit smoking cigarettes. I learned that if I was going to party with the gang, it should be the last night of a thing before a day off so that I have that day to recuperate and whatever.
Yep.
Get a good night's sleep the next night, all that stuff, and do it again. But yeah, the way it works for me now is, as I said, I bring the humidifier. I have the facial steamer for before the show. I drink so much water. The problem about drinking so much water is that, especially at my age, again, it's like when I go to bed at night, I'm up every hour on the hour using the toilet. Yeah. But that's what melatonin is for. So I take melatonin before bed so that I can go conk into a nice deep sleep. And if I do get up to use the bathroom, I go back to my bed and I'm in a dream again already.
Wow.
Gone are the days of using booze or anything else to try to put you to sleep, because that doesn't really put you to sleep. It just kind of turns you off for a little while, but you're not really getting the energized.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I do. And I warm up before every show, and I warm up multiple times a day in 10-minute intervals. So, and a lot of people don't realize that hydration, standing on stage and drinking water doesn't actually moisten your vocal cord. Like, the water doesn't get absorbed into your vocal cord. That just helps your dry mouth.
Okay.
In order to be hydrated, you need to be drinking hours and hours before you sing.
Okay.
So that the water can get into your system and basically, get into your vocal cords.
Oh, good tips. What's going on with Famous Underground these days?
Well, Famous Underground, just prior to the pandemic, we had almost finished a full-length record. 15 songs actually were recorded. And some of them are still, I've got a few tracks to do still, like a couple of them need me to do my vocal takes, and a couple of guitar solos, stuff like that. But the original plan was to release it in 2020. And the whole world was in limbo in 2020, right? So we call that the sort of the lost year, right? We lost it. So last year, what myself and Laurie Green, who's the bass player and my business partner with Famous Underground, we decided, well, because we really don't know what's going on still, we're still in a pandemic. I mean, it might be an endemic for some of us who are vaxxed and everything that we can try to go back to. Like, I've been on airplanes and I've been everywhere and I still test negative, right? Because I'm diligent with what I'm doing. So point I'm getting at is, you know, we don't know. Come fall, it could all shut down again.
Yeah.
So we decided let's break it up into multiple releases and we'll just do EPs because
perfect.
We're not touring specifically. We don't even know what's going on. You know, even with Classic Albums Live, which has got a schedule, like, for example, I know what's happening with Classic Albums Live up until the end of 2023. I even see starts of 2024 dates.
Oh, wow.
Coming. So the point I'm getting at is even with bigger touring professionals, a lot of stuff was put on the back burner, put on hold, and then rescheduled, and then put on the back burner and rescheduled. So back with Famous Underground, we just decided, listen, we'll break up this album into 3 EPs. Well, last year we released In My Reflection, which could be part 1 of In My Reflection. I don't know if this next EP is going to continue on the same name, you know, or if I'll give it a new name, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, will it be In My Reflection part 2, considering it's all part of an album, a catalog collection of songs. It could still be that, or am I going to give it a new name for marketing purposes? I don't. But the point is, last year we released In My Reflection with 5 songs, 2 videos. This year we're going to do the same.
Perfect.
This one might be 4 songs. You know, we've got a single coming out at the end of the month.
Good.
Which you'll start to see a little bit of promo for probably next week. Track called Sludge Garden, which I think is really relevant to the times right now that we're living in. I mean, with everything going on politically around the world, everything going on with health issues and global warming and all this stuff, you know, it's pretty relevant. I'm not 21 singing about going to the bar with the boys and picking up chicks anymore.
That's right.
And nor do I want to do that. Again, nostalgia is a very powerful thing, and some guys still want to do that, and all the power to them. But my son even has a laugh when I put on like Christine 16 or something, and Gene wasn't even 70 at the time when he wrote that. He was still 2. My son says, was he driving by in a white van by the high school? You know, because now, you know, we were having a laugh about songs the other night. She's Only 17, Christine 16, Sexy and 17, like all these songs that, you know, from the 50s, you could sing about teenage girls and all that stuff, even if you were a grown up, and it doesn't fly anymore. So point being is I have no interest anymore. I'm a married guy with a 16-year-old son, and social issues seem to be what, you know, sort of drives my train of thought, I guess you could say. You know, whether it be inspired by a movie, a documentary, a story, a news item, I get my inspiration from the world. I don't get it from the tiny little, you know, when you're a teenage boy or in your early 20s, you got your collective, which in my case was my band, Slik Toxik. That was the gang. And, you know, our train of thought was we were going to take over the world and, you know, pick up hot chicks. And, you know, I always say this when it was like, you know, the days of wanting to hang out at the Playboy Mansion, those fled a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? But when you're young and ready to do what we wanted to do, I mean, the idea was, you know, I want to buy a Porsche and I want to hang out at the Playboy Mansion and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I don't sing about that anymore. So Sludge Garden, which will be out at the end of the month. And then a few other songs that attack different types of social issues, you know, will be on the EP.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
One of my favorite, if you don't mind me talking, one of my favorite
please.
one of my favorite tracks that is on this thing, which will be released as a summer single, and a video will be done for it, is a song called Love Grenade. And it's basically, I mean, we're living in an era right now, Brent, where somebody who's a stalker doesn't have to be walking past your house multiple times a day. Now they all do it via, you know.
That's right.
Creeping your Instagrams and Facebooks and TikToks and whatnot. So, you know, this song Love Grenade is kind of one of those situational songs where there's some dude that I guess is losing his marbles a bit because he seems to think having interaction with some Instagram model or whatever online amounts to a relationship.
Oh God.
So, you know, so wait till you hear that one. It's a really hooky tune, but when you delve into the concept, it's kind of dark. Like my dad even says, "Oh, I don't like the concept of that song. I don't like that." And I'm like, "But it's a really catchy, good song. I don't care. I don't want to hear it."
Oh, really? See, he was listening to the lyric pretty closely then.
Well, that's what my dad does. He's been next to me. He's my biggest critic. So.
Oh, really? Nice. Was he a big Slik Toxik fan?
Oh yeah, he was the Slik Toxik dad, so to speak.
That is how cool is that though, Nick? Really?
Well, you know, I was fortunate enough that when I started playing music professionally, I was 14, and I was playing in nightclubs like Larry's Hideaway, which is a famous Toronto nightclub for hard rock and heavy metal. Some huge bands played at Larry's, right? Or some, I don't want to say huge, but some big bands that like part of the big thrash scene and stuff like that played at Larry's. You know, guys like Slayer or Merciful Fate and stuff like that. And Anvil, you know, Razor, whatever. And my band at the time, Virgin Angel. So I was fortunate that from the time I was that young, I mean, my bands, my family house was the band house. Like, so we rehearsed in my parents' basement. You know, my father and mother took the band out for dinners, and you know, they were there throughout everything. And you know, for myself, not just me, but my band members. I mean, they had a haven. They had a music safe haven to go. Like some of the guys in the band, especially in the early years, whose parents didn't quite believe in their dreams and goals. Right. Well, my parents did. My parents wholeheartedly supported it. Right. So.
That is so great. Cool.
Yeah, my dad's he's from Birkenhead, which is basically like Liverpool, England, and you know, Beatles were a big part of my household and 50s music. So you know, right from the get go, from a young man, I used to be able to put on records. I've got two older brothers, 9 and 10 years older than me. So you know, I heard a lot of music through them as well. So I was fortunate to hear generations of music before I discovered my own, which my own really was, you know, in the 70s as a kid, it was like Kiss, Alice Cooper, Queen, Aerosmith, AC/DC in the late 70s, like, and I would say that was pretty much it for me. I mean, if you looked at my record collection as a kid, that's all I had, and maybe Angel, but, you know, Casablanca Band, whatever. But those records were my things as a kid in the 70s. But the music I discovered myself was like the Iron Maidens, the Dios, the Twisted Sisters, the Merciful Fates, the Metallicas, all that stuff. Yeah. That was my Motley Crue. That was all my music. But I was fortunate enough to, like I say, like my brothers had Aerosmith records, Zeppelin records, you name it, all those other records that when they weren't home, I was sneaking in their room and playing. So,
see, that's funny because you and I have said before, like we have the same opinions on this stuff, and we're about the same age. I turned 53 in a couple of weeks,
right?
And so I felt like that music was written for me because it was Motley Crue and Maiden in 1984, Powerslave, that sort of stuff.
Dude, I saw that tour with Twisted Sister opening up, and that was Twisted Sister on the Stay Hungry tour. Yeah. So man, to see Powerslave and Stay Hungry, like right now, again, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I mean, I had 6th row floors, and how old was I? I was 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, you're like 13.
Crazy.
I know. Unbelievable, right? Yeah, but you know, like the Zeppelins and the Aerosmiths and even, Stones and the Beatles. I didn't discover that until much later. I didn't have an older brother to kind of, go through his record collection. In university, I found out about that stuff.
Like I said, I had my dad to hear sort of like pre-70s music and my brothers to hear post-70s music. I mean, my brothers, they were polar opposites, right?
Oh.
One was into harder edge stuff, like the Nazareths, the Molly Hatchets, that kind of stuff. And then the other one was into things like, Billy Joel and Elton John and stuff. So I got the best of both worlds,
That's
all
amazing.
worlds. Then, what we were just talking about, then when the discovery of our own sort of era,
that's right,
music happened, that was really good.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
for me, the first time I heard "Piece of Your Action" by Motley Crue, I was like, this is one of the heaviest tracks I've ever heard, and I always wanted to cover it since, and I never did, but it was one of those things that, I mean, we could talk about songs. You told me to pick 5 songs. Well, there's way more than 5 songs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could do 5 hours of songs and how they hit me and what they did to me and at what point pivotal shifts happened in my way of thinking about music or my way of thinking about image or my way of, anything. There was different things that just, gave me a slight little bend in the branch. And now it's opening up, like the root of a tree or the branches, how they spread out. Now it's opening up different things. So I don't know if you want to get to that or should we talk about Slik Toxik?
Let's talk about Slik Toxik first, and then we'll get into your tunes because I want to know what's going on with them.
Okay, well, there's no reunion or anything like that. First of all, to have a proper Slik Toxik reunion, you need everybody who is involved. I mean, some people may not agree with me, but that doesn't matter because the facts are the facts. A lot of people have asked me, why don't you re-record the songs? And I said, well, because then they're just songs with me singing on them. Those songs that were recorded on Doin The Nasty and Smooth and Deadly, and even Irrelevant, the second record, those were capturing a moment in time. And that moment in time involved everyone who was involved. It wasn't just me. I couldn't just although I was the primary songwriter, myself and my lyrical partner, David Murcell, I play guitar. A lot of people for years didn't even know that I played guitar. Meanwhile, I wrote, I'd say 70% of the Slik Toxik riffs and song arrangements. And wrote the melodies of the vocals and some of the lyrics with Dave. But I wanted it to be a family. So I wanted to be inclusive, right? I didn't want it to be a dictatorship. I wanted it to be a democracy. Was I pissed off when they voted against me? Absolutely. But this is part of what a democracy is. You rally for certain things, and if it doesn't go your way, you have to accept it. But yeah, so with the Slik Toxik thing, we couldn't do a reunion because some of the guys are just, clinically unable, mentally unable, physically unable to do it. Now, have I toyed with the idea of going out and doing Slik Toxik songs myself? Absolutely. Because why? Why not? I've been playing them in all my solo acts since Slik Toxik. Famous Underground, we open up the vault all the time. I don't know if you've ever seen a FU show, but sometimes we break out White Lies, Hell of a Time, Sweet Asylum, Midnight Grind. We've done it for 20 years. I've been singing Slik Toxik songs, so it's not new to me.
Yeah,
it might be new to somebody who hasn't been in a band playing those songs, and they like the idea of it. But I don't want to go down that road again.
Yeah.
Will I do Nick Toxik? That's something I've been toying with for 15 years.
I like that. That's your Instagram handle.
That's my everything handle because I was either known as Slik Nick or Nick Toxik.
Yeah. And
I like Nick Toxik better.
I do too. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
So will I do that? You never know. I'm not going to say never to that one, but I will say never to Slik Toxik.
Yeah.
Not happening.
I get that. I think that would be a great compromise.
So part of the Slik Toxik thing is that for years, the records were just not available in the cyberspace area. And I often wondered why, and I had no idea. To be honest with you, with all this controversy that surrounded Slik Toxik back in the day, we were like the GNR of Canada. There was nothing but if we were in the States, I mean, even my U.S. friends who have been in big U.S. bands, they even say with some of the controversy that surrounded Slik Toxik back in the day, if that were the U.S., we would have made the cover of Rolling Stone, you know? But this is Canada. We're apologetic. We try to hide those things. We have to be all nicey nice. So I often thought, oh, maybe we're just blackballed because I don't hear, you know, White Lies and Hell of a Time on classic rock radio, which I should be. I mean, hell, we were Juno Award winners, gold selling artists. We cleaned up at the MMVAs that year. Yeah, there was just a lot of accolades that we achieved in such a short period of time that we disappeared from the history book, so to speak. So once I started to dig and inquire and all that, as it turned out, I think it was 2011 that EMI was absorbed, their catalog was absorbed by Universal.
Oh, okay.
So once I got through those channels and spoke to the people at Universal involved, they didn't even know that it wasn't out. There's a lot of artists who are sitting in limbo right now in the Universal archives that they don't even know how to get their music out or anything like that. So if anybody's listening, the advice to you is Universal absorbed the EMI catalog. So you need to talk to somebody in that, at that company. But yeah, they didn't even know it wasn't out. So it took coordinating for over a year. Brent, I had started talking to them December of 2020.
Okay.
And because of last year, again, 2021 being hit and miss, people not going into the office, this and that, there was a lot of jumping through flaming hoops to get it out. Finally came out at the end of November. This past March, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary of the record. And next in line is the what I'd say is the prequel, which was the EP that we'd released prior to Doin The Nasty called Smooth and Deadly.
Yes.
That'll be out again in the digital space probably by summer.
Awesome.
If not summer, it's going to definitely be fall. It will be this year, but again, with everything going on, you know, it's hard to pin down a date.
So I don't have to listen to my cassette anymore then.
Well, you'll have to listen to the cassette of Smooth and Deadly, but you can go on Spotify right now and listen to Doin The Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, I hadn't really listened to it in a long time. And the day it was released on Spotify, my wife and I had a couple of cocktails in front of my stereo system and listened to it via the internet and translated great. Because, you know, and it's not remastered. A lot of artists are, you know, they're all remastering and this and that. But if you don't know this as well, I mean, you get what's called a loudness penalty. So what that means is all of this digital streaming providers, they all have their threshold, much like how a radio station has a limiter that it can only be pushed so hard. Well, they've got a limiter as well and a threshold. So if you record your music louder than their threshold, they automatically reduce the decibel level.
Oh.
So what happens is your music doesn't end up sounding the way you intended.
Right.
So if you listen to, as an example, if you listen to Famous Underground, the first record, what we would call our Black Album, it's just called Famous Underground, self-titled, it doesn't sound as loud as In My Reflection. And the reason why is because I mixed and mastered In My Reflection for streaming media. I did two versions of it, one for pressing and one for streaming. And it translates the way you want to hear it. And it translates, again, a lot of people who mix don't understand this in this day and age. And a lot of the young guys need to take notice of this, is you need to also test your mixes in mono. I mean, a lot of people are just listening to their music on a tablet or a phone these days. Or even like, for example, I have one of my things that I listen to as a reference is I have a mono Sonos speaker, Bluetooth Wi-Fi speaker. So if I listen to my mix on there and I go, hey, where the hell did that guitar go?
Yeah.
Then I come back into my studio and check the mix and I check the spectrum where it is. There's too much in the stereo spectrum that, you know, I need to maybe place it a little bit better in my mix. And then all of a sudden when I listen, I hit my mono button here in my studio. There it is, right?
Yes.
So back to this loudness penalty thing. So I mixed that specifically for that. But Doin The Nasty was mixed and mastered in 1991.
Right.
So it was mastered in a day prior to the big loudness wars. So it translates amazing online because it wasn't mastered to be, we want it to be the loudest sounding freaking record ever. It wasn't mastered for that. It was just mastered to sound good on a stereo through a CD. So it translates pretty good on we didn't get penalized. I'll tell you that much on streaming media. It translated amazing. And so when I listened to it, I was like, I'm looking at my wife going, this is a pretty good fucking record, man. You know, I'm actually pretty proud. I spent years kind of like not listening to it, maybe because of some of the bad taste certain things left in my mouth. And I'd hear it once in a while, but I really sat down and listened to it from top to tail. And I got to say, I'm pretty damn proud of that piece of work.
Good. That's great. I'm going to give it a spin when we're done here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into your tunes here. You sent me 5 awesome songs. All right, that concludes part 1 of my chat with Nick Walsh. Come back next time to find out what Nick's songs are and what he has to say about them. This has been No Sleep Till Sudbury with Brent Jensen and my very special guest, Mr. Nick Walsh. Till next time, folks, take good care.
Brent Jensen is the best-selling author of No Sleep Till Sudbury, Leftover People, and All My Favorite People Are Broken. All titles available in stores and on Amazon worldwide.